Hello, ladies and gentlemen. It is I, Emily Sophia. I am back from the dead, here to review the first season of True Detective for you guys. So I'm gonna say spoiler alert, because I know that a lot of you guys who might be watching this review saw the show a long time ago, so I'm gonna give a plot synopsis, just kind of recap, and then give you my thoughts and analysis, all that good jazz. Again, it's really great to be back here on the channel. I know that I've been silent for a little while, but, you know, not all that slumbers never rises again, or something. So I'm hoping to, after this review, continue on to do a comparison vlog of the Quantic Dream games Beyond Two Souls and Heavy Rain, then maybe review the first season of the Telltale game The Wolf Among Us after the final episode is released, and just kind of do a comprehensive review. I might be reviewing the show Fargo, maybe make some news vlogs about updates about Better Call Saul, the Breaking Bad spinoff, and The Walking Dead. I don't know, you guys tell me what to do and I'll try and do it. I've been working like 1,000 jobs, so that is there. Also, for those of you who like comedy and True Detective, I imagine you at least like the latter if you're watching this review. There's a hilarious True Detective parody done by one of my favorite comedians, Pete Holmes. There is a link in the description to that if you want to have some giggles about the show. Giggles really can be had, even when it comes to this dark stuff. But anyway, so let me kind of break down for you some broad thoughts about the show. Now, I was hesitant to begin the series because so many people were calling it the new Breaking Bad. And when someone tries to, I cannot speak, when someone tries to equate a series with like the greatest series known to man, the next popular thing, and it just, there's really nothing about the shows that's alike except that they're both kind of set in these barren landscapes and, you know, depravity and human degradation and all that good stuff, but they're very different shows. I mean, I suppose I can see why people are saying it's like the new Breaking Bad in terms of the realism and the grittiness and the all that good stuff, but they're different shows. It's really okay to let them be different shows and they can both be good, but if you're gonna compare them, you can't just say that it's the new Breaking Bad. That's just kind of how I feel. And honestly, as a whole, looking at the season as a whole, it's not, what makes it special is not so much where the show ends, but how it arrives there. You know, the expose of the big killer, the Yellow King and Carcosa, all that jazz. It's a basic story formula, one that's been done before, but what's so creative and awesome about the show is kind of the emphasis on the psychosphere. So sort of everyone is part of this atmosphere of thoughts where everyone is impacted by these sinister rituals enacted by the societal elite, all that jazz. So basically kind of how everyone is implicated in the darkness that is explored in the show. And there are so many themes and patterns that tie the different plot lines together. That is something that really makes the show special. It's really its execution. The cinematography too is really interesting. I love the emphasis on the extreme long shots. So a lot of the times at the end of episodes, the camera would pan out and pan out and pan out until you're basically in this aerial shot. So you go from this character view, you're in the midst of the gristliness, and then you just kind of go out and out and out in, I mean, I could go into all the metaphors there, but the show definitely, it experimented, and it also had kind of a consistent style, despite the way that things changed as the narratives progressed. And also, yeah, the narrative structure made it kind of special too, because we kind of start in medias res, you know, right in the middle of the story. We are in 2012. We go back to 1995 when the original killer was caught, and then to 2002 when Cole and Hart, Russ Cole and Marty Hart had their falling out, and then they come back together. All the exciting stuff happens. So that's what made the show special for me, was the way that it was done. I also love the theme song by the Handsome Family, Far From Any Road. It really sets this moody, brooding stage. In the intro sequence that it is played over, it's filled with these weird, surreal overlays, like objects and landscapes and faces and silhouettes are all combined, and you could break that down shot by shot and analyze all the metaphors being explored there. I can't even begin to get into all of them in this review, so bear with me. I'm trying to say as much as I can about the show without absolutely melting your minds. I am melting my own mind trying to say something meaningful about this crazy complex show. It's not easy. Getting ready to review this was a daunting task. What I also loved in the series was, of course, the dream team of Woody Harrelson and Matthew McConaughey, back from the rom-com dead. I knew him back in the day from films like Ghosts of Girlfriends Past and Fool's Gold, Failure to Launch, even like that action movie Sahara. And then in recent years he has broken back onto the serious movie scene, I suppose you could say. He had his little kind of overblown cameo in The Wolf of Wall Street, which was funny and very iconic. And then rocking the world with Dallas Buyers Club, and also landing on True Detective. So I just love the resurrection of this awesome, sexy older man who got roped into the rom-com genre, and now he's back and really doing a lot of very mature projects. And that's not to say that rom-com is for little girls. It's just kind of what I grew up with, and thus what I associate with my childhood, and I kind of want to move on from my childhood in some ways. I don't know. I think he did awesome. And part of the reason I started watching this series was because I had a dream about him, and I was, okay, I know what you're thinking. It was really weird. And then I thought I should watch True Detective and see if my dream was as weird as the show. They're pretty different, but also kind of weird and ghostly and strange. But anyway, so my own brain convinced me to do it, and also everyone asking me to watch this. Also, I do want to touch on this in case I forget to later in the vlog, but as many of you know, the show has been pitched and will be done in an anthology style similar to that of American Horror Story. So every season it's a different setting and different characters. And in this case it's different from American Horror Story because it's all going to be different actors too, but same general approach. Different stories, place, setting, etc. The next season is going to have 3 leads. I don't know if it's going to be female fronted or not. I've heard that it's not, but I don't know. I don't know what that means exactly. And it's supposed to be set in the lesser known parts of California. And it is going to deal with, quote, the secret occult history of the United States transportation system, which I find very fascinating because I took public transportation most of my senior year of college, and so I kind of want to see what they're going to do with that and the ways in which I've been implicated in the psychosphere and all the craziness. But anyways, before I analyze stuff, let's do a quick review, if I can, of the show. What happened? Because it's been a long time for a lot of you guys, I think. And yes, this is going to be spoilery, okay? So we've got Martin Hart and Rustin Cole. They are partnered together to investigate the ritualistic murder of a prostitute, Dora Kelly Lange, I still don't know that name, who is found in a crop field in the Vermilion Parish of Louisiana in 1995. Cole, not exactly being a bucket of sunshine and snuggles, alienates Hart and the rest of the detectives with his pessimistic perspective and his insistence upon the murderer being well versed in the lethal arts. This is not an isolated incident. So, and this story, of course, is framed by the narratives of Cole and Hart in 2012 as they are interviewed by Thomas Papania, I don't remember how to pronounce that, and Maynard Gilbo, who who have found a photograph of a girl killed in a manner indicative of the 1995 killer's MO, who they thought had been gotten. So as Hart and Cole explore and butt heads over the increasingly complex and intricate case, Hart leads an adulterous life behind the scenes while keeping up the family man guise. Meanwhile, on the other happy end of the spectrum, Cole is grappling with hallucinations and insomnia and the loss of his family, a trauma which shaped his career in law enforcement and the addiction that set in as he worked undercover for nearly half a decade. Lots of fun stuff in the bromance between these guys. So as the boys learn more and more about Dora's connections, the Scarface Man, the Yellow King, and Carcosa, they ultimately head after her boyfriend, Reggie Mideau, and in the present, while reflecting on these developments in the past, Hart shows his moral hypocrisy and Cole struts his nihilism, downing beers and depleting cigarettes that the detectives got for him so kindly. And then things heat up as Cole, trying to get information about Mideau, infiltrates the old biker gang, and in his retelling of past events, incites the suspicions of the interviewers who question his feigned sick leave and try to get answers out of the elusive Hart, who ain't want to say no thing. And then back in the past, Cole and Hart descend on Mideau, and Hart executes Mideau after finding the two kidnapped children in his dingy bayou hideout. And then Cole and Hart, they disguise the crime scene as a different kind of crime scene and are hailed as heroes back at home. But by 2002, everything goes awry, and after Hart's good with his family, and Cole is this supreme, big-time interrogator, he finds out that the Yellow King is still at large. Shenanigans happen with Hart, who goes back to his infidelity, which prompts Maggie to go after Cole, who gets pissed, and a lot of different things conflate as at the same time Cole is suspended from duty. At the same time, Hart finds out about the business that was done between his former partner and his wife. Things hit the fan, the two go separate ways, but ultimately come back into the present, and they descend into Carcosa to discover the identity of the green-haired spaghetti monster, Errol Childress, the Hick King of Hell, who goads Cole on through Carcosa and nearly kills both of them, who, after surviving the incident and coming forth, have either physical or spiritual contact with their families, spiritual in Cole's sense and physical in Hart's. And they realize that despite the sparseness of the stars in the night sky above them, the light is winning. So that is the season. I have way too much else to say. I mean, so basic things that I loved about the season. I love sort of the take on the buddy cop dynamic, because really these guys are not buddies, and they put to death the classic buddy cop bantering from the get-go. Marty, he's consistently blasting Rust for his bleak and cynical commentaries about their crooked world. And instead of bouncing off of all of his dust-to-dust speeches, Marty all but ejects Rust from the shotgun seat as he resists his partner's abiding darkness. But until Marty's eyes adjust to the shadows, he's sickened by all this doom and gloom business. He doesn't see it. He doesn't want to. You know, if we want to look at this metaphorically, which we can look at a lot of things metaphorically in this show, you know, he's kind of this by-the-book religion, whereas Rust is the spirituality that makes you question everything, you know? I tell you what, sexiness. Anyways, I have to consult my notes here again. There's so much stuff to say that I had to take a lot of notes. So Rust, he really undermines and demands and disturbs and disrupts. That's the kind of guy he is. And really, he's as haunted as he's the one who haunts. You know, having lost his family and kind of hovering in the midst of Marty's for a lot of the show. And it kind of gives him, too, this X-ray vision into the heart of things. He's got kind of this sixth sense. He can read just about anything, like an open book. And he floats from opiates and uppers to downers, and he's living with this bare bones apartment on one side and his grandiose visions and hallucinations on the other. He's grounded in a sense, but he's unbound. Whereas Marty's kind of the opposite. He's bound by his call of booty. I know that was really a low-hanging fruit for a joke, but he's ungrounded in that sense. So the two of them are essentially equals and opposites all at once here, okay? It's this kind of Katy Perry style hot and cold dynamic that only finds balance by the very end, after the two of them have experienced in depth and brutality the darkness and the light. They both get finally what the other sees, and they feel the pull of the light when all is said and done. There's also this sense of the setting as a character, you know, where all of this takes place. It's not just where things happen. It's kind of this living, breathing character that has an active role in the Tuttle family's secret society of ritualized perversion and depravity, you know? For, like, basically you have to pull back from this culturally ingrained religious fanaticism and question how people got to where they are in society in order to steer away from the consequences of breathing this atmosphere of decay, you know? Yeah, and so again, there's the whole idea of the psychosphere where everyone is impacted by everything else, by these practices and the ceremonial behaviors that pervade the media, the government, the law, everything that's put in place to inform and protect, ultimately entrapping people and twisting worldviews. You know, and nobody can be fully divorced from the psychosphere. Every single character in the show is affected by it, even like Marty's children with the, you know, illicit drawings of sexual acts, like with the men ganging up on young girls as are acted out in the Tuttle family rituals. And, you know, it's not just about who's behind these murders, like who actually did the deed, because everyone in this world is implicated in them. And Rust, in his kind of relative outsiderness, even though he's a part of the psychosphere, it helps make him alert to where the darkness comes from and ultimately leads him toward the light, so to speak. And then, of course, there's the whole dual linear narrative where we get to see how the characters got to where they are in the present and the ironies as they sort of explain everything that happened from their own biased points of view. We see what they choose to tell and how they choose to tell it and the ways in which they kind of self-filter and speak in detached or oblique tones about their lowest points in life. You know, we look at some of the violent craziness on Marty's end of the spectrum, and then in the present he's like, you know, you've got to have balance in life, and we see him just tearing it up, going psycho in his domestic life. So it's that whole compartmentalization. We get to see these men on the other side and before the momentum really builds to the end. Because it's taking the two narratives, the past and the present, and then they push forward into a new present, because we've been going back, forth, kind of slaloming about, and then we move forward right to the end. I know that some people had kind of complained about a slowness mid-season, but that's really kind of more where the experimentation and storytelling takes place, and where we get to see all these metaphors about the psychosphere, about the way that evil pervades all these lives. That's what we really get to see going on there, you know. Yeah, so there's a ton of momentum. And what's awesome about the dark-light dichotomy that's explored in the show, one of my favorite quotes from the series was about when Cole was sort of explaining how he's a bad man, but he's a bad man who keeps the other bad men from the door. He's kind of a gatekeeper, you know, so it takes this darkness for him to be able to delve into it and to find lightness, you know? It's all that crazy kind of anti-hero business that everybody gets all hot and bothered about, and I myself am no exception to this rule. You know, and I was kind of trying to think too where I would place Cole and Hart on the alignment scale, you know, like chaotic good, chaotic neutral, lawful good, lawful evil, all that stuff. I think that I would situate Cole as chaotic good, whereas Marty is kind of in the chaotic neutral or maybe even lawful neutral side. And I would say that because his light and his dark sides, whereas they're really polarized in Cole, in Hart they're much less polarized. He's kind of awash in this sea of personal unawareness. He just don't know himself very well because he's clinging to this vague sense of rules about what everything in his life is supposed to do for him. You know, like his family's supposed to be there for him. But his idea of being there for the family is maintaining some semblance of moral order through this physical and verbal enforcement and not divorcing his wife despite his proclivity for chase and tail. You know, he distorts and he makes his own rules, but to some extent Russ does the same thing, I think. So the two are really well poised to rejoin forces after Russ chases Marty down the road and talks him into buying Rust a beer, which is a fun little social switcheroo that only someone of Rust's caliber could successfully pull off. He's always getting people to get him stuff. What a card. I just gotta say. And so yeah, past and present collide, and we now see where everything is headed. And personally, I'm really glad that there wasn't some big expose or twist about Cole being the killer or Marty being the killer, because I didn't feel like that was really what the story was trying to say. And if they threw that in, that would just be like, I guess a simple way to say it is that would be really freaking depressing. Because then it's just like, now what? I don't know. The whole idea that things end with the two of them looking towards the light and Marty and Rust wheeling off into the not sunset because it's nighttime. I like that ending. Some people said that it was kind of predictable in a sense, but again, it's more about how the show is done. It's all about that freaking psychosphere. How Rust and Marty work through the degradation that comes with being a part of society, with living in other individuals in these cultures where all these horrific things take place and that live underneath these cultures and social structures, the law and the church and order, and how all of these things are cover-ups or are involved in murder and abuse and torture. And that seeps into the lives of everyone around. So that can make the show a very depressing experience when you think about it, but it's the fact that despite the darkness, or it is having seen the darkness, that enables these two characters to bond together and to look towards the light. Because now they know very intimately it's complete and utter opposite. That's kind of the way that I see it. And so there is this touch of hope in the midst of this tremendous despair and so much that is disgusting and awful and sad. You know? So I love the show. I miss it. I want to see it again. And I'm excited to see what the new season is gonna look like. I like the idea of the anthology series because this season felt so complete in itself, and I think a lot of that is owed to very cohesive writing, one author, one umbrella under which everything remains, and it's so good. It's so good. I wanted to share some of like my favorite quotes from the series and stuff, but we are fresh out of time and my camera is dying, so I love the show. Thank you so much for bugging me to watch it. I'm so glad that I finally did, and that you and my dreams prompted me to get there. So I'll be back with more videos. Let me know all your thoughts. I'll try and respond as I get the time. Yeah, I'll be back. I tell you what, The Walking Dead is coming back, and things are in motion. I'll be back around. So, many kisses. Take that to go. May peace and the force and all things good be with you. And remember, the light is winning, okay? Alright, I'll catch you guys later, and I will be back before you know it.
This talk